Twilight Duskblade. The air in the dimly lit archive was thick with the scent of old paper and regret. Twilight Duskblade ran a gloved finger along the spine of the leather-bound book, her mind not on the title but on the letter she had received that morning. It was from her sister, Lyra, the last person she had expected to hear from after all these years. The letter was an invitation, or perhaps a summons, to a past she had tried to forget. 5 years ago, the Duskblade twins stood back to back in the Grand Athenaeum, surrounded by the shattered remains of the orrery of Helios. The air crackled with spent magic. Twilight, her hands still smoking from the force of the defensive spell she had cast, looked at her sister. Lyra's eyes, usually so full of light, were hollow. "I had to," Lyra whispered, her voice cracking. "The knowledge, it wasn't ours to take." Twilight remembered the crushing weight of that moment, the realization that her sister, her other half, had committed an act of theft that Twilight herself had only narrowly avoided. Twilight blinked, the memory of Lyra's hollow eyes overlaying the sight of the letter in her hand. The words blurred. That day in the Athenaeum hadn't been about who was right or wrong. It was the moment she realized her sister was capable of a darkness she herself only understood in theory. The sting was not from the past, but from the present realization that Lyra had been carrying this alone all this time. It was a year before the Athenaeum incident. They were in their family's library, and Lyra was laughing, showing Twilight a passage in a book about the Paracelsian principles. "Look," Lyra had said, her eyes alight. "It says the greatest secrets aren't hidden, they're just waiting. They don't need to be taken." Twilight had laughed with her, but a part of her had been jealous. Her certainty that the world was inherently good. That memory now felt like a betrayal. Twilight crumpled the letter. Her hands were shaking. For years she had believed she was the strong one, the one who resisted temptation. But Lyra's letter suggested she had been the one to fall, and for a long time. The letter asked for Twilight's help now to undo what had been done. It was an admission of guilt that shifted their entire shared history. The memory was crisp, the way only life-altering moments can be. Lyra, her hand outstretched, not with the stolen core of the orrery, but with a single glowing seed of knowledge she had taken from a restricted section weeks before the main event. "For you," Lyra had said, her voice trembling, "so we can both see clearly." Twilight had taken it, not understanding it was the key to everything that followed. It wasn't a weapon, it was a key, and Lyra had given it to her, not taken it for herself. Twilight looked at the letter, then at the door. To go would be to accept her sister's version of the past. To stay would be to let Lyra bear the weight of their shared history alone. It was never about who was right, but about who was left to face the consequences. Twilight made a choice. Twilight Duskblade walked into the evening, the letter in her pocket not as a burden, but as a map. She was not going to forgive or forget, but she was going to understand. The sister she had loved was still they, and she was not. They were different people shaped by the same truth, and that was okay. The path forward was not about erasing the past, but about walking through it together. With open eyes.